open up the agenda. Ballpark City Council special meeting. Today's April the 17th, 2019, and the time is 5:31. So at this point, we will take roll call.
Councilmember Alejandro Avila. Here. Councilmember Paul Hernandez is currently absent. Councilmember Ricardo Pacheco.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Garcia is also currently absent, and Mayor Manuel Lozano.
Present. I'm going to go ahead and move to excuse them. Monica should be here shortly, and Councilman Power Hernandez should be here about sometime after 7 o'clock. That's my motion. Is there a second?
Second.
No objection. No objection. See none. So moved. All right. So at this point, we'll go over to public communication. Anyone wishing to speak? See no interest. I now declare the public communication closed. All right. So we have open session. We have the dog park location options. And Director of Recreation and Community Services, Manny Carrillo, will answer that. Thank you, Manny. What's up?
Hello, Mayor.
What's up,
Mayor, council members, thank you for the opportunity to present potential locations for the dog park. And we've come up with 2 locations. And the first 2 locations that we've come up with, the potential locations, Barnes Park, the south end of the park, which is away from the mountains and a more of a secluded area of the park, and Morgan Park, which is adjacent to the corner of Baldwin Park Boulevard and Ramona. So we have a diagram of Barnes Park. Barnes Park, we have a little bit more detail, primarily because we've had a architect providing conceptual map of the dog park. Some of the pros for the dog park: safe and secluded area, revamping of space. We have, and both dog parks will have a division of a small and large dog park. We'll have perimeter fencing on both of the parks, and easy access to the freeway. And another pro for Barnes is we have the conceptual ready. Some of the cons: across the street from a residential area, limited parking, although I think that can be addressed with a design, and off central location in contrast to Morgan Park. And we could go on to the next slide. And as I mentioned before, we do have a conceptual Barnes Park, so there's a little bit more detail. We are preserving the road to the billboards, so that will definitely a must. And as I mentioned before, that's the south end of the park, and that's an area of the park that is not being utilized to the fullest extent. And we do have some plant life, some large trees that will immediately provide benefit to the dog park. And we'll move on to the next slide. And Morgan Park is the newest design that we are working with. Pros, centrally located. Morgan Park is more of a facility that attracts from all over the area. Additional park attraction, high visibility. As the other dog park, we would have a large and a small section. As the other park as well, the double fencing, and because it's on a busy street of Baldwin Park and Ramona, I believe we would have minimal noise from the barking and the other activities. Some of the cons, which I believe will be challenging to address, but I'm sure with an architect we could address those. Loss of approximately 30,000 square feet of green space at Morgan Park. Like for example, bless you, for this weekend we will have the Easter egg hunt on that specific area, as well as the Arbor Day festivities. And if we build a dog park, then we would have to relocate maybe to the other end of the park. Congestion of parking might be a little challenging adjacent to a main boulevard, but I think that could be addressed if we position the fences maybe away from the main boulevards, and high attention to maintenance because it is in a very visible area.
May I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
The outline, is that the suggested? It's not going to be that big, is it?
Well, that is consistent with a 30,000 square foot space that we are working with at Barnes Park. And why it looks a little different, the Barnes Park area, it's more of a secluded linear area, and we're not really utilizing that space for a whole lot. So we would be reactivating the space at Barnes Park. But if council chose to to build on this park. I'm sure with a architect, we could soften up some of the elements that we seem, that might be a little on the challenge.
I think we should preserve that the way it is. It represents Morgan Park.
You would recommend
We
that
would
move
lose.
everything in yellow?
Yes, that is consistent with Barnes Park, which is 30,600 square foot.
We could go back to, we
Barnes.
could compare to Barnes, so at the south end, it's not as much of an impact to green
Are those
space.
choices?
Yeah, the top one is the small dog park, and then the bottom one is the larger dog park, and we are still preserving the soccer field, multi-purpose field, and all the features of the
You know what?
park.
That's a shame.
I
And
would say that if we do consider Barnes Park, you know, we definitely need the buy-in from the residents.
Yes.
We need the buy-in from the residents.
we've had one public input meeting, and we've had several residents show up. They seemed neutral about the dog park, and so we plan on having several more public input meetings before our August 5th deadline for Prop 68 grant application.
I know the park is used for a lot of that particular area, a lot of events that you got told that.
The at Morgan or
At Morgan
Yes,
Park.
it is
So it would
heavily
take a
utilized.
lot of our park.
Yes.
I would prefer it to be here.
Yeah, but
The
if we
what?
can have more
I
input
would
from
prefer to have it
the
here.
So why don't we
At
hold a
Barnes.
community
community
Yeah.
meetings.
at the park, invite the residents around the area, show them these concepts and get their input?
Yeah.
And as part of the outreach, I think that we need to actually leave, you know, the invitation, like the, you know, something that is bright and bold that will capture attention
Sure.
on the doors, or so that people, you know, pay attention to when the city is
So they're
reaching
aware.
out. I think it's
Okay.
important enough on this project.
Very, very good. We do have some additional slides, but you could take a look at that at your convenience. It's just additional background information. You have the PowerPoint in front of you. We could move on to the next one. And we have some images of some other dog parks, Whittier, South Pass, and West Covina, and then some additional features, Herman Dog Park, and some of the facts that were conducted through LA County needs assessment, as well as one last slide, I believe, dog park characteristics. And on the upper right-hand corner, we have the city of Diamond Bar, South Pass, West Covina, and Whittier, some of the specifics in regards to their size of the dog park, for the large park, the small park, construction costs, and so on, just as general information. And we will have a public input meeting, and hopefully, if all goes well, move forward and hire an architect to create a best practices dog park.
There would definitely need one somewhere in Morgan Park, but not that front part.
No,
But, you know, that's the symbol of the park.
The only other option would be the multi-purpose field, where we have lights and soccer
for the soccer field. is used.
field, and we'll be out there Saturday, so we could take a tour of the park and see if there's any elements that we could maybe give up. One of the basketball courts is an option.
Well,
Those are very busy too, though.
Everything,
I don't think so.
everything is pretty busy.
Well,
Yeah, Morgan Park's a very busy park.
the other option is try to work with Department of Water and Power and try to get a lease underneath the power lines. There's a couple opportunities to do
Like
that.
Where?
You had scoped out some areas, I don't remember which street it was on.
Next to 7-Eleven on the south end of town.
By Best?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So it is a long-term,
No, but but that's look how close it is to Barnes Park.
Yes, it is.
Well, it's an option. We need one on this side of town.
Or maybe eventually, when we have a joint use project with the school district, it could incorporate a park, maybe at Olive Middle School or at Jones, Holland. I think there's some opportunities there.
I know
People
Olive
are-
uses a lot of the field for soccer. That's one of the schools that is used for soccer right now.
People
about
are
the-
usually very willing to travel a little bit of a distance.
Yeah,
for a
it's
dog
not really
park.
that
What
far.
about the
if you
Hilton
think about
Silvers
it.
Park? Any opportunity there?
Oh, that's enough.
Pretty tight space because it's a very linear park.
Right.
We have the fitness zone, a little bit of green space with some green trees.
But the
It's very-
space requirements are not
Very-
are not
very-
there.
Okay, so in order to get that grant, you have to have specific space?
26.
Is that what we're saying?
Yes, excuse me, we have.
Is there a specific radius requirement?
Space limitation.
The separation probably is the most
Yes, well, the.
Oh, for the big and
For
small
big and
dogs.
Yes,
small.
that's just
Yeah.
best practices.
disabled dogs.
Yeah, we don't want to have a dog park. We don't want to go through the expense and then the efforts of having a dog park that doesn't.
It's
know,
not
fit.
functional.
Yeah, that the dogs can't run and things like that.
Oh,
so
I
there are
see.
certain
That makes sense.
space requirements. I think
Okay.
just
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I
Best
don't-
practice,
best
we're on
practices.
average on all of the diamond bar. Obviously, from the site visits, Whittier was the largest, just because they had they actually went through a land acquisition of the actual land and
What's
created
the-
the dog park.
what's
In
the square
Whittier,
footage?
the square footage for them was 1.34 acres.
Okay, before.
Whoa,
So
for-
theirs
for-
is
the
huge.
smallest?
The smallest
I
is
think it was one and a half high.
South Pasadena with
South Pass at about
63.
22,000 square
Is
feet.
that
Yeah,
Herman?
16.
No,
No.
South Pass.
South
Like
Pass.
about combined.
The
So
pictures
we're-
you showed us, what parts were those?
if we go back,
Those.
okay, so Appendix 1, this is Whittier, this is
Okay,
the
Whittier.
largest, and you can see this is huge.
It's 1.34 acres.
Wow.
Combined between both areas.
And what is our area that we're proposing? Let's say if there was a Barnes Park.
30,600 square foot.
So about 3/4 of an acre.
3/4 of an acre.
But
For
it's,
both, for both.
yeah,
Yes.
combined. It's
But-
consistent with the others.
That is a pretty good size.
Yeah.
If you want to see a comparison, you can go look at the one in West Covina.
This is
Right.
this one.
There's a picture of it here, but if you want to stand and see the size, would be about the size we would be building.
West Covina has one or two dog parks?
So one.
Where
One
was this
part,
one?
two
Right next to,
separate.
about across from Edgewood High School.
Two separate areas. That's West
It's
Covina.
it's on Merced.
Where the hospital is?
Yes, right by the hospital, yes.
So then we will conduct a few.
Well, we gotta
public
get sometime.
input meetings.
Yeah.
and We will move forward.
Yes, anything else?
So you want us to concentrate on Barnes Park for now and
Ah,
get
it's a
the
shame,
residents'
guys, it
input?
really is.
I don't
I'd
like,
like to see one over at Morgan Park, but,
I wouldn't like Morgan Park to look like this.
no, I know, that's what, yeah, I hear
It
you.
would really would look, so.
Well, we have the option of decomposed granite, which was what Herman Dog Park has.
Mhm.
And then we have, it looks like West Covina has, and Whittier. Oh, Whittier also has decomposed
Yes.
granite. And then West Covina has, some
Combination.
They are getting rid of the grass.
Oh, they are?
Yeah, they are. It's too
Oh.
hard to maintain.
Yeah.
But San
Yeah,
Dimas still
they-
has grass.
they ruined the
But
grass.
you've got to close it for 8 weeks every year to reseed it and let it grow.
Right.
So they'll close the small dog park and open the other one and close the
And
large
see
one.
that doesn't
Reseed
look
it.
nice.
Yeah, we would
This is the
include-
Herman.
The dirt.
There are,
Like, you're gonna put
actually,
it at
actually, I'll
Morgan
say
Park?
this was,
Yeah.
this is
No.
my project.
No, that's
when
what
I
I'm
worked
saying.
for-
Yeah.
See, to have
This is
this
Herman.
look at
I
at
actually,
Morgan Park?
this is actually my project when I worked for the council office, and the reason why they put decomposed granite was because it's along the Arroyo Seco, and they said that this actually held less bacteria, because, the runoff that would be anticipated into the Arroyo Seco. But, when we met with the what was it, assistant,
Mr. Reagan?
general manager at Rec and Parks, he did say that the grass actually, it's easier to maintain. So, so it may not look like this, right? I mean, it's really what we
How
decide.
big is that? What was,
I can't, this was opened in 2005.
It's a very nice size.
It's been a long time.
It's probably about 30,000.
So you're saying that the grass is easier to maintain than this?
Well, no, this right here, the decomposed granite it was appropriate for this site because after an environmental review, being that it's next to the Arroyo Seco, they determined it would have less bacteria.
Okay.
Then it would carry less bacteria so that when it runs off into the arroyo, it would have less levels of bacteria.
Mhm.
But in a more recent meeting with the assistant general manager of Rec and Parks, probably in the last couple of years,
Yes.
he conveyed that although this addresses the bacterial levels, the grass is easier to maintain. That's what he said, right?
Yes. And I'm sure they've had a lot of best practices now after all of the years. So we would incorporate the best practices. I know Councilmember Pacheco wanted to see something floral. So I'm sure we would incorporate some colorful apparatuses for the dogs. So we don't have to count on flowers or anything like that.
Yeah, because flowers can actually, it depends on what flowers, but they can actually hurt like animals if we don't get the right
So
one.
like the city of Whittier, that's
Whittier
very
also does.
colorful.
Lilies and things
Yeah.
like that.
You can also do it through public art, and the gates could be
Absolutely.
floral design, so you
That
can
would
still
be
have
better.
a park
Mhm, that would be
element
nice.
Yeah.
and beautification in it.
That would be very nice.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
And then we'll figure it out because I think we really need one of this out of town.
Very good.
All right, so I did, that's the only thing that the next one's a digital street banner, right?
Yes.
We could speak
But I think the
that.
question
Oh,
was,
yeah.
do we want to focus on Barnes Park?
Do you
That
want
was
us
the
to hold
question.
that town hall meeting? And
Yeah, I think you should.
Yeah.
Why not?
And
I
then we
think
can
so,
go from
yeah.
there.
And I think we need to canvas,
Right.
that area,
We
not
will.
just
We'll
send a
go-
letter.
We'll go door to door.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a
That would
staff
be
member
nice.
that actually lives across the street. She's an advocate for this project.
She's an environmental scientist.
Oh,
She
nice.
lives at
Oh,
Cal
so
Poly.
she'll have a lot of input. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
she brought her mom to the last public input meeting.
Biohazard waste. And
There you go,
She's
see?
like biodegradable, and she's all
Okay, so
Yeah,
this is about
really
the same.
excited.
Because those are things that will come
Yeah.
up. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for looking at that.
Hey, welcome home.
Thank you.
All right.
You guys want some snacks?
Okay, thank you.
Ricardo?
Yeah.
I had a list.
We have some.
Oh, sorry, Ricardo. Here. I know, right? That's it all to the building.
I feel bad. Does anybody want anything?
Oh, nice of you. You're such a good host.
After all. After all. There's nothing on it.
They're not even,
Oh, you're not on?
they're on here, so they're gonna take. I was just gonna. You want some?
No, I'm okay.
Oh, yeah, fire it up. We can shoot it. Don't wait for me.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and council members. We have a short presentation that we prepared to provide you with additional information regarding the public art project. It was on the agenda last week. It was moved over to this week. And it's on the agenda tonight. Earlier this week, we also emailed a brochure that has a lot of this information in case you want to read, or if you have more questions. I want to introduce the public art consultant and the public artists, Beatrix, Claudia, and Franca. And they prepared a presentation, and they'll be addressing a lot of the questions regarding the process, the selection process, how the public artists came about, their ideas for significant community involvement, local public artists, working with all of them. So I'll just hand it over to them.
And-
Thank you very much.
And just a reminder that this is sort of the kickoff of the process. As concepts and designs are developed and artists and selections are made, the council will be brought in on every step to make the decisions and guide the process along with the community involvement.
All right, awesome. Thank you very much.
Okay, and with that,
Thank you.
My name is
Thank you.
Beatrice Barker. I've been what we have as a first slide. Let's leave it on that one for a little while. These are our projects. Actually, a lot of the projects that we worked on together or my projects.
Can you tell us where these are, Beatrice?
Yes, the first one is LAX. The second one is the Trio project in Pasadena, Court 3 Graces. The third one, the Coyote, was a temporary art project in West Hollywood on the median between Doheny and La Brea. Several projects we had there. The other one is an indoor project that I had in Toronto. The lower, the circles that you see was a project in Pasadena called Westgate. It was the largest residential project in Pasadena, which was a very exciting collaboration between artists and the landscape architect. The second one on the lower level is a project we worked on together in Culver City with Merge. And the third and last one was a bridge in downtown Los Angeles, and Claudia and Franca can also talk to that. And I wanted to say very, very briefly, because they're much more interesting than me talking too much about the process. But first I would like to mention that obviously public art is very different from studio art. For instance, it is different. Artists, good public artists react to the community, react to the environment and to the specifics of the site. They would not have a signature style per se, or a signature medium they work in. And basically what I will talk to in a minute is how we came to selecting this particular team. I was selected by the city, talking to other cities, and I think particularly the city of West Covina, where I had quite a number of projects. And I worked in a number of the different cities around here, so I'm fairly, as a public art advisor, I'm quite aware of process and also the communities that surround us here. The selection process that we went through when this project came into my office was to make, first of all, the first issue was that it's a very important project for the city. The second key issue was that there was a sense of urgency. So I went and looked at a number of artists. I don't think the second slide. The second slide. The issues of consideration were very complicated for this particular project, because obviously we have to look at engineering. We have to look at, first of all, also having experience with substantial budgets, working collaboratively with the design team and the city, as well as the communities, and also having an understanding of the digital aspect of the project, which is, I would say, a large number of the artists wouldn't have that experience. And Merge, the team members of this design team, had architectural experience as well as art experience, and they hit every one of the requirements. So we very proudly felt that if they could work with us, then it would be a win-win situation. So I would really like them to talk a little bit about how they approach projects and their past projects, because their past projects reflect very well the requirements that we had for this project.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
And I also would like to thank you for your vision to including public art.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you very much. All righty. Pleasure.
So I don't know whether you've had time to look at the brochure that we've prepared. We've gone into quite a bit of detail to talk about community outreach process, which is obviously really important for this project. Also, I think there were some questions about budget and our way of trying to break down and to kind of see where we are, so we can set the right expectations in terms of the scale of project that we can build with the allocated money. And then I think, as Beatrice mentioned, all of our projects are very unique to their situations, depending on the communities we are working with, also depending on the use of the site. So I think the really best way for you to get a sense of our process and then also envision what your project could be like is actually by sharing some of our projects with you that we've completed previously. So in terms of community outreach, maybe we can just go over this quickly. We don't have so much time, I think. So we've talked, with Public Works to help us identify significant community groups that will reach out to also the high schools. Beyond that, we are also planning on having a general public outreach meeting, and one of our kind of key beliefs is we need to come to the community with an open ear. We don't have any designs in mind yet. We don't have a signature work that we are dropping at various locations. It's really about going. That's also why you haven't seen any kind of design proposals from us. Because we need to go and hear from the community first and really understand what this community is about. And what we are trying to get to is what are the specific questions that can be identifiers of Baldwin Park at this location without being stereotypical, without being something that is just the kind of same image repeated. And so we are hoping that by really engaging with the community, we will start to tease out some of these stories that could become could become interesting. And then at various steps throughout the process, we would go back to the community. Obviously, there's a public feedback period to then also receive feedback to our design proposals. Along with obviously feedback from staff and from, I think, the city council as the approving body. So one question that came up was also how can local artists be involved into this process. I think that's something that maybe we can talk about a little bit more when we are sharing a project that we did in San Jose with you, where we did involve local artists and artisans in various ways. I think a big issue is always typically this is a large-scale project that needs a certain amount of experience that maybe a lot of local artists wouldn't necessarily be able to fulfill, but it doesn't mean that there couldn't be a role for them to participate in that project and influence that project in a collaborative sense. So I think we will see that. Maybe we won't see that. No, we won't see that. So maybe while this is going on, we can just go through the.
There we go. We don't have to.
So we did in the brochure. It's also like a draft for a press release that we are planning to pass out to the post, with the help of Helen Hernandez to the community. Maybe when you have time, you can look through this and also give your input before this is sent out. But basically introducing that project as this marquee that has an element of the decorative public art as well as the identifying language of City of Baldwin Park along with the digital display. Maybe if you just maybe let's go back one to the budget. So this is the budget that you approved, I think, several months ago, with a total budget of $664,000 that is then broken down into art consultant fee, project management, and the design build contract that would be under us. And then next one breaks down a little bit what is the design component of the design build. Obviously, the community meetings, all the research of historical and other relevant information, schematic design, design development, and construction drawings. So there's different steps. Some of it would be like 3D renderings or physical models that are really communicating to a non-technical audience, to the community, to all of you. while on the other end, of course, we need engineered drawings that are highly technical and approvable by the building department. And so, it's basically like an architectural process. We need all
Can I
these.
stop you for a second? I'm sorry, going back to the budget, I'm looking at the breakdown here. So you are Barker and Associates, correct? And then the project management, can you explain that?
I think that's a portion that was a public works department is talking to a company that will manage the project from the city side, right?
Right, so those are funds set aside for us to use with our on-call engineering team, because they're going to be coming in to be part of the engineering process. So some of the engineering work will be done by infrastructure.
And then this says project management is Velada Consulting?
No.
Oh, okay, so
I
is
don't
that
know
wrong?
a lot of consultants.
Okay.
That's the media.
Yeah. Oh, okay, so that's.
So I'm
I'm sorry,
confused.
that
Like, what does
didn't
media have to do
no.
with
So
this? I'm
that
just
should be
confused.
infrastructure.
Right, that should be infrastructure. That's what we said.
Oh, I see.
So that's
Oh, that makes more sense. It's like
So
the
that's a-
engineering firm.
sort
So
of a
it-
typo.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, that was.
Oh no, that's okay.
misunderstanding
I'm
on my
glad I
part
asked for the
of who it is.
clarification. Because
Yeah.
I'd be like, what is the media doing, managing this project? Our media person. Okay, I'm sorry. Continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
about
no,
that. Go
sorry,
ahead.
that's totally a mistake.
Okay.
But so the engineering, the structural engineering would be under our design build contract, and also the traffic engineering as well, which obviously is a very busy thoroughfares. That will need some significant handling of traffic to probably some night work or weekend work during installation phase of the project. We talked to several fabricators to help us identify how basically, ideally, we want to create as many marquees as possible, as many markers for the city, as much public art as we can with the budget. We also need to be realistic of the size of that structure. It's a significant, it's 70 to 80 foot span across the street. It's probably 14 feet tall. So it's a large truss type structure that will have to span the street. So we talked to metal fabricators. We also talked to two different digital marquee fabricators, to Yesco and Daktronics, to get all of their inputs in terms of estimation of how the budget would come out. So this obviously is not based on a specific design yet. So as we are developing a design, we'll have to check in with each of those fabricators and make sure that we are still within the range of our budget.
Right, because we can come up with some really
Yeah.
grandiose
Yeah.
design, but if it's not within the budget, it's unrealistic.
Exactly.
And also fragmenting into several smaller projects would be probably wasting the opportunity of creating something more meaningful.
So we looked at a reference project to also help us understand budget. So we were a little bit shocked to see how expensive the North Hollywood Arts District Gateway was almost 10 years ago. This is a project in Phoenix that was a little bit less expensive 5 years ago. But you can see that those are big structures, and there's a lot of foundation work that's involved. So it does get expensive, unfortunately, quickly. And then.
So these are now examples of for our work. We talked a little bit about it already in a presentation we did maybe a month ago or 1.5 months ago about it. So this is a project we did in San Jose, and we we brought it again here because in that one we also had a similar outreach process, really. This is about, there were two things we needed to do here. This was about the bus stations for a large bus rapid transit line. It went through, like at the end we had like 29 stations or 28? No, 18. And so there were 9 neighborhoods we traversed in it, and we had community meetings with every one of them to find the right people to help us to find out what is really so special about the neighborhoods. And so, like, this was is an art piece, but is in the neighborhood where the Portuguese American community lives. So we went to like a community center there where the like these women showed us like what they are doing and what they're doing. So we photographed actually the artwork, and then the artwork itself was part of the bus station there.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so you always had a north or south, or you had an east or west. That's why there are always 2 stations in the neighborhood. And then each one of these stations had a color, so that while you travel along, you know the orange is the one I need to get out in this neighborhood. So the color was always the back layer, and then the front layer was always like what makes that neighborhood so special. So this is a neighborhood where we had like the African American churches. So we photographed them, and then they were displayed in their neighborhood. This is a neighborhood that is famous for that the lowrider history, really. And
where was that? I'm curious.
Story Road in San Jose.
Oh. It's like east of Manhattan. And we had an artist, actually we found through a tattoo artist, and the artist is like really good. Is his son there. Is good in doing candy colors on cars. So the top is actually a candy colored piece, what he did for us. This is a Papel Picado piece right in front of the Mexican Heritage Museum. And the artist helped us, like he created the Papel Picado, and then we blew it up to bring it into the glass. And on one side it's really like more the Mexican heritage, and the other one is the Ohlone heritage of the area, the Native American heritage.
I think just going back to the other project, I think you can see that at each of these stations we had quite a a collaborative effort with various artisans, artists, and community members that help us identify these stories, but then also work with us to translate those into patterns. And then I think depending on what the design will be or what the direction will be, what stories come up in Baldwin Park, we will again, see like who are the people that we can engage with. Is there a local artisan that, the painter painting the lowrider cars could then paint our ceiling and work with us to create those panels where somebody else, the old ladies making their crochet lace. It's more about representing them rather than them creating something. So
I would encourage you as part of your process and speaking with the community and is to visit our historical society.
Yeah, for sure.
What I see in my community, and this is just my input because there's 5 of us and there's going to be a whole lot more community members, but I see, that there is a strong appreciation for our history, but we're moving forward, with different demographics, different, a different feel even from what used to be. And so, but there's been like a journey. And so you can you can see that in our historical society, which is just downstairs across the way.
Yeah, for sure. No, all these things will go into this project, and I think that the thing that's always important for us is to find something that is unexpected and to find something that is a little bit hidden, but that can carry that bigger meaning. And we don't want to go to the stereotypical, representations of like. It's actually interesting in this project. The community came out, very strongly at first before we even started a project, and they had ideas of like, Mexican tile roof on the stations, which obviously wasn't our purview because it was an architect who designed the overall station, but so they wanted to be represented, and then we really worked with them to say like, what is it that we can represent you in a more meaningful way. And so when all these stories came up, and it took took some time, took some effort, took a lot of meetings. We actually then also collaborated with somebody in San Jose to follow up with some of the meetings because we are only there that much. And so it just really was a big effort to try to find all these stories. And in the end, actually, I think we put it even into the brochure. There's a letter in there that one of the neighborhood association wrote to the VTA board to talk about that process and how surprised they were, how collaborative and positive that was for
But I
them.
think that you made a very good point, and it's a very important point that often is overlooked, that public art usually sort of seems to respond to the site, but it's usually history-based, and we forget that things change, and people change, and neighborhoods change. So that's a very interesting point that I really think is often overlooked.
Yeah, we don't want to be stuck in the red car or whatever it was.
Thank you for saying that,
Yeah.
because I know that
So
here
true.
we often refer to ourselves as the hub of the San Gabriel Valley, but the hub to me represents something very old and from an older time, and it's part of our history, and so is the railroad, and so is Lucky Baldwin, but we've come so far. And so I would just, my input would be, to capture more of that journey, even into the future versus getting stuck at one point in time.
I think this is where you will be able to help, because going to the community will probably want to reflect the status quo as it stands now. But the vision for the future will have to come from quite possibly the elected officials who work with the vision.
Possibly, or we might be surprised because we have new community members that have perhaps a different vision for our city, and they're going to be part of that next chapter. So we might get it from them too.
Yeah. So that's just quickly a few more projects. That was a project in Alan J. Martin Park in La Puente, which was very different color concept for the park. And so we came up with this theme of circles and something very bright, very colorful, because it was this kind of drab park before, and worked with local teenagers to then identify icons associated with certain colors, and had this whole spray painting project with them that really helped them also identify with the park. And actually, those circles then became the icon that the county used for creating a farmers market there, and so the community really embraced that project.
This is more like the amount of structural stuff that we are also doing. This is a bridge in Phoenix or Scottsdale, what we did, and this was over a wash that just at certain times really has water, but before the bridge was there, the Scottsdale Road would actually succumb to the water when it happened. Oh, wow. So that's why they built the bridge so they can drive the whole time there. There are quite some developments in that area. So we just wanted to keep the other side, keep a little bit of that history, that once there was a wash and once there was water. And so that's why we created the bridge, so that there is this wave going over the bridge, and it's used by the pedestrians now.
Where's that in LA? Oh, that's by the...
Yeah, it's on Figueroa, bridge across Figueroa Boulevard.
They do gallop.
Yes. So this it actually uses this optical illusion of a lenticular situation where you have stripes on one layer, and then you have 6 motion phases. You can see this is what the image really looks like without the stripes in front of it. So as you drive under the bridge, your perception changes, and so the animals appear to move. And the animals are applied with a reflective traffic film, so they start to light up, actually. So there's no active light in there, but they light up at night and create an animation, basically.
Very nice.
And so the requirement for that project was, because it is a kind of a gateway to Chinatown, there should be an animal of the Chinese zodiac. So that's why the horses came about.
Okay.
And the developer is is very fond of horses.
Exactly. So it's like, let's do
Oh,
horses.
kind of Santa Anita.
It wasn't
Okay.
Year of the Horse.
It was not year of the horse. It needed to be
But
one
it's
of the
there.
animals, and so he's like, okay, let's do the horses.
Figure that
Okay.
one out.
I just thought maybe.
So
like,
that's reflecting not from the freeway, but from the side looking,
from
in,
the
I guess,
street,
yeah, street.
right?
From the street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the traffic lights make that.
I see.
happen.
Okay. Oh, very nice.
That's it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Oh,
We
thank
really
you. Thank you very much.
appreciate
Looking
it.
forward.
you.
Thank
We
you.
could
Taking the
talk for
time.
hours,
Fine.
but we will talk, keep it short.
Well, thank you so much
Yeah,
for taking the time, and thank you for your time at the last meeting too. Sorry we postponed it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think this was worth having
Thank
more
you.
of a conversation.
Yeah, no, definitely. Thanks for the.
All right, thank you very much. All right, so at this point, we're going to go into.
So we have two more slides to show you.
Oh, okay.
And, at the last meeting, there were questions about a related project, and that was the two digital signs that the billboard developer has promised to include for the city. So we wanted to get clear direction on the locations, on where those would go, so
Shannon,
we
so
can move ahead with that.
So are we talking about also the replacement of the billboard at Morgan Park?
So I think that
So
is an
that is
option,
one of the
is to
options
refurbish
that we're,
that.
so, yeah,
Oh, go
just
ahead.
to, yeah. So as part of the development agreement with Bulletin Displays, they are to install two signs, park signs, within the city. This slide is just asking or requesting direction from the council on options that we are going to provide. So just quickly, this is a rendering, artist rendering provided by Bulletin Displays, but this is not the final way it's going to look. In the agreement, there's approval for the CEO to change that design.
So where would this go?
You know,
So-
I would, oh, go ahead.
Yeah. So these are the recommended options. We are looking at the teen center. That sign is old and very old
Yeah, it is
and
very old.
dilapidated. So with this option, we would just do away with this sign and put in a brand new sign.
Yes.
The second recommended option is Morgan Park. This will be more of a retrofit, still incorporating some of that art that's there, but doing a display. Or we can also do away with it.
Oh, do away with that in the
I
entirety?
think that's okay if we did.
Oh, I have no problem.
Well, I would say retro this one and put another one by Ramona and kind of the Ramona and main intersection, but somewhere around it where the bank is.
Oh, no, because that's kind of like the centralized area.
Yeah, but I agree with everybody goes through
Yeah,
this. They have
exactly.
it at the bank.
I agree.
So maybe that's
So,
where we
yeah,
can
that's
get
one of the
the one that goes across
So,
the way.
the big sign that we just
Yeah, that
talked
would
about
be
earlier
Yeah.
is going to go somewhere along that downtown stretch that you're talking about. So
Yeah, the previous art project will handle that type of sign for the downtown.
yeah, and if we keep the sign at Morgan Park, we don't want to have it too close to that also, because then you have now two signs.
Right.
Okay, how about near the Pierway entrance, over there by where the water fountain is and then
Yeah, that's also an option for the previous project that we talked about. If we have an opportunity to do more than one sign, that's where we go.
Because you had discussed one off of Boulevard in Ramona, right? Was it Boulevard?
Right, yeah, that's
Because
where,
it's the
yeah.
entry
So
to
somewhere
Boulevard.
in the downtown area, that's
Yeah.
where we're proposing the big sign.
Mm-hmm.
So
I
these are
would
the,
say so too, Sam, because we need full control of the intersection, and we need to be able to keep it nice. And my concern is if we put it too close to the freeway, it's going to become an issue of like Caltrans, and then we can't keep that area nice because a lot of that is Caltrans jurisdiction. So wherever we have this, we really need to take pride and be able to keep it nice and be able to maintain the flowers or
I
whatever
think in the
is
downtown
there.
area
Yeah.
would be best.
So, well,
Well, you know what?
two, right?
Yeah.
yeah, so
So-
these are
Probably the one by the
these are the
sunset.
recommended options. We also have alternate options
Okay.
that I would like to present to the council. So one of them would be right here in front of City Hall. That's another option. We think it's also a good option. We can have a sign there. And then also Barnes Park is an option. Barnes Park's, while it is an option, it's not a recommended option because there's residents that live there.
It's
And
just going to
might
stay,
be-
going to light up the whole place.
Right.
and because it's a residential street, it might not get too much exposure. So
Yeah.
yeah, so But we threw it out there as an option.
Yeah,
I think
you'll probably get
Yeah,
complaints
Barnes
regarding
Park's
that.
not far.
in front of
What
the
do you think,
city
Juan?
and probably the
Let's
teen
put front of your
center.
house.
So all we need is direction so that we can start moving forward.
All right.
Right in front of the city
I
hall.
would say
and
front
by
of
the
City
teen
Hall and
center.
Retro, the other one.
And-
Well, no, Teen
So
Center, we have
just so
one.
that it's clear,
No, but
we
the
get
teen
one
center's back
archway
there,
really,
yeah.
I know.
one
It
archway.
is.
Upgrade
It is.
that
If I understand that, or
Out of
one
the-
traffic.
out of the
What do you
previous.
call that?
Out of the art.
625,
Yeah,
thank you.
overhead.
She just
Okay,
got it.
one overhead.
We call it over
And
the
then
street.
two smaller marquees.
Right.
Is that?
On that,
Depending on the cost.
Depending on the
Yeah.
cost.
Never
These
was
are
a-
separate.
So, Alejandro, are we replacing this one?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Now, this one right here, so what does the council want to do? Just tear it down, put a new one?
Yeah, we want to take it down, do away with it, and put a new one.
Okay. And then make sure that it's high because, you know what,
You know,
Sam? We don't want.
That it
when you
stands
see-
out more.
Yeah, because right now, if you're on the left lane, well, should be actually watching the road, right? But when you make left that street light, it's, kind of covers it a little.
Right, and one of the reasons we want to do away because we need to add height to it to overcome that.
Okay.
So we need to make it a little higher.
Now,
6 feet will do it.
So if we do those two, then we can't do one in front of City Hall. There's only two.
We can't. So there's three. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
yeah.
Give us the overview of how many we're looking at for the art project, and then how many are allocated based on the bulletin
Yes.
display.
Yes.
Okay, so we are looking on the public art project side. We're looking at one over the street, feature sign art, and possibly, if budget allows, two side of the road or smaller in the median sign. And once we get into the nitty gritty of that project, we'll figure out where we're at and where the signs are going to go. We'll come back to council and say, this is the budget, and we have room for these other two signs.
And one of them could be in front of City Hall.
Exactly.
If you don't choose one of
So
these
they're
two.
just smaller, okay.
And then we have, on a separate project, through bulletin displays, we have two signs up to 100,000. And these are more like, in the agreement, they called out for city park digital signs. So we're trying to find park locations, but they don't have to be.
What is the budget for the two that you mentioned as part of the art project and the two that are part of the BDI, bulletin display?
So bulletin displays is easy. It's 100,000 for both, so it's 50,000 each.
Okay.
On the public art side, it's a little difficult to say, but
So actually, on our budget right now, the budget really is almost entirely taken up by the archway because it is such a big structure, and we are trying to incorporate the digital component into that as well.
Okay.
Then there
So
is,
no much
I
left.
think another 15,000 or so that we thought like if there's more like a pole, but that wouldn't have a digital component, some kind of marker on the street that is particular to the main street, then we will do that. So we'll have to really see where the budget lays. But if there are some pole locations, those would not be as large, digital signs.
yeah, there'll be more on the side of the street type static sign, or if we can, if the budget does allow, maybe have a small display on it. So we don't know yet.
Yeah.
I would like to see like the downtown, the main one that we discussed. But I would also like something nice in front of City Hall that stands out, that this is City Hall. I think it's
yeah, I
needed.
would kind of lean toward that.
I mean, you miss City
One is
Hall and
City
you're not paying attention.
The one at the teen center is kind of,
I'm just concerned it is a bit of a hazard as it is, driving hazard. Like there was a young woman that was
For Christmas?
and killed there, and so my only concern is the safety of that, But we could look at all that because, of course, it would be nice. But I'm just concerned because it's already like a little bit of a hazardous, little intersection.
But we're going to be working on that project as well,
Yeah.
right? To
So
make that area safer.
Yes, I do
We're talking right
appreciate
here?
that. That's a very good point. I'm sorry?
You're talking about right here?
Yeah, outside
Yeah.
where
Yeah,
the
we got
crosswalk
street lights.
is.
Yeah, we're working on streetlights,
We need
and we just working on a grant to do safe hot type crosswalk. So we're looking at solutions for that.
And like, yeah.
But it's a very good point. There is some safety issues.
So really what we're looking at right now is an archway that could take up the entire budget, and then 2 that would be
bulletin.
curbing.
And so the direction I'm looking for tonight is for where do we want to put these 2 bulletin display signs? And
The 2 additional ones, is that what you're saying?
And we're recommending the teen center and Morgan Park.
One at City Hall and Retro the
I would like that.
How about one towards the Walmart area? I don't know. I mean, areas that, wow.
Okay.
I mean, maybe not there, but I'm just saying, in other words, everything's centralized.
On that part, Tom?
One of these?
Well, somewhere. I mean,
Well, definitely
gotta
the
pump
teen
this
center
out,
needs
people.
to be replaced because it's not even
So-
noticeable, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Well, what would it cost to
Very
replace
ugly.
the teen center?
Well, you only get,
Well,
15.
Maybe we had that
About
one.
50,000.
about 50,000.
Okay, do you need to know today? You guys know it? Well,
No,
right. Well,
if you need more options, we can definitely.
Well, let's just
come
start,
back.
definitely,
put the teen
What do-
center.
well, yeah, the Morgan, how soon can you have that,
The Morgan Park?
to start that project?
As soon as we get direction, we'll start working both
Well,
in the
let's
place.
go.
They're ready to
Okay,
get
so,
the signs.
so we're ready for Morgan Park, correct?
I'm there.
All right,
think
so,
so.
all right, are we ready also for the teen center then?
Yes.
No, I'm a little.
No?
I just don't
we
think
could
it's
be.
worth putting money there.
Because it's like, what are they? Or
Oh,
what are we
but-
going to be announcing? Or
Well,
Well,
it
you
just
know what,
doesn't
too?
seem like a major kind of,
Oh, I
I'd
see
like
what
to
you're
see it
saying.
somewhere else.
And you know what? Once they bring that, the bridge design, it's gonna be closer to the teen center too, right?
So
Why don't we
then,
have more options?
if
or another location?
if I understand what we can move forward now with Morgan Park. I see that maybe we're in consensus there,
Yes.
and I can come back with more options for the
Okay,
second time.
yeah, definitely,
And for the city
you guys,
hall.
start
City
Morgan
hall.
Park, start the Morgan Park with
So,
you guys.
just in the interest of full disclosure, we have actually budgeted in the CIP for that teen center sign. So there's already funds allocated to that, so maybe we can use the other sign. We just wanted to say.
So are we getting an
Just to
LED?
do the screen, not the
That's
whole
just to
sign.
do the screen.
Are we getting an LED screen here? Is that what we're gonna do? 4K
Yeah,
or
so
whatever?
these older screens, these pixelized older type screens, those are out. Now they have high density.
Oh, we could put a animated picture and all that.
Animated photographs, video.
That would be nice because we like to highlight our youth and
Yes,
from council,
yes.
and that would be so nice.
We'll put your picture there, Monica. So.
How will we put you? There.
Oh, man, okay.
Okay,
let's
well,
do
then
it.
I'll come back with more options for that second sign. We'll move forward with Morgan Park.
Yeah, give us a timeline on that Morgan Park. I think
Yeah, how long
it's
would that
just
take?
really
Well,
bad. I mean, you can't even see anything. It has to be during the nighttime.
Well,
Seriously.
if it's the desire of the council for us to expedite that
Yes,
project, we will
expedite it.
surely work on it and get it back.
No, don't surely work on it. Let's do it.
I think what he's referring to is, the glare too from the sun.
You
So
can't
we
read
need
it,
to
yeah.
keep
No, you
that in
can't.
mind.
It's just bad.
We need to keep
Well,
that in
because
mind.
it's facing the sun.
Yeah, that's
so-
what I'm saying. As we design this, we need to keep that in mind.
The what?
Because then we won't be able, the glare of the sun.
The sun
And-
hits it directly when it's set.
No,
That's why we
you
can't
guys,
see.
this is the 21st century. No, these are much different. Seriously.
I'm just saying keep that in mind in the design just in case. 'Cause
Yeah, if you've seen the bright signs on the freeway, they're really bright at all times of the day. That
Yeah.
Even as the sun
technology
hits
is
up,
yeah.
similar
Yeah, I
to
was gonna
that.
say,
So
guys.
they're nice. They're nice.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Sam. Appreciate that, brother.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
All right. Okay. For the record, Gene Ayala walked in at 6:25. Note that to the deputy city. I was open house, Gene. I know. She said open house at Walnut Elementary. Was it? Did a lot of people go? Very good.
Are we done, Mayor?
Most of your students. Yeah. Gene was mine. Oh yeah. Oh, we're going to closed session. Sorry about that. Yes.
6:28.